Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for the semifinals of the Godset Trials of Diligence tournament. I am Disco Ninja, and I am joined here with my co-caster Ashkin, and I am psyched for this game, GenZ versus Godset. Ash?
I am excited as well, Disco. We've had a little bit of a wait going through, had to have a couple of issues with selection. I'm going to go ahead and dump the blame on the admins for that one. But I am more than happy to be here now. We got GenZ versus Godset, as we've been saying, and it's going to be an amazing best of three because these teams have scored just about evenly going through this tournament. So we are ready to see a head-to-head clash that might go split even.
Yep, I could not agree more. This is probably one of the more exciting games that I've been seeing. As we can see, we got some interesting comps coming through. Astra and Brimstone, we've seen him play the Brimstone before, which is kind of interesting to me because mostly the consensus is that Brimstone has fallen a little bit out of the meta, but obviously Godset has some tricks up their sleeve, as we discussed earlier. So I'm excited to go into the server here and see how things start off.
Yes, indeed. Now, I want to talk about the picks of these teams as well. Right now, the agents, so particularly the sentinels on either team, right? Enzo on the Sage is going to be a very quick push denial, right? Sage's slow orbs and wall are going to kill any push that comes their way. But the issue is that there's not a whole lot of information with that. J0 on the Sova might be able to help a little bit, but if that recon bolt and drone don't see anything, it's going to leave GenZ without information when they get to the defensive side. Now, since they're on attack, it won't be as much of an issue, but it's something to worry about.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're moving up towards B right now.
Yeah, it looks like we do have the GenZ kind of pushing, going for that early aggression like they usually do. The 4-man pushing up into Hexagon, and they're already pouring out onto the site, taking it completely for free. Looks like it was a kind of a bad read over on the side of Godset, having a 3 stacked over on A. Now we're already down into a 5v3 retake scenario. Godset is kind of trapped over here in CT spawn with the wall down. There's going to be a bloodbath just ready to happen here. As soon as they push out into this, Decay will try to push out. The flash comes out, 2 flashes even, as GenZ rolls through, taking out just about everybody unscathed. Astra will be able to trade it out, and that's going to give them 4 going into the next round.
Definitely an unfortunate early loss due to positioning by Eden. He had the right idea with trying to get a pick and falling back, but swapped over to that set of paint shells to try and throw him out and gets caught with his pants down, leading to, of course, this series that allows GenZ to hop into that site, take full control, and block everyone from CT because no one on the side of Godset went for a flank around.
Yep, that's right. And as it has been written before, when GenZ gets that 4-man survival rate into the second round, it starts to build up a good economy for them. And now we can already see GenZ kind of coming in quick off of this B-short aggression. They will be able to find one, but not before it is traded out. Luckily, though, the site is going to be free for them, and they will be able to get the spike down here in just a moment, but there was a good amount of denial coming in from Godset with the Molly and the paint shells coming in, but J0 will be able to secure the spike plant. And we're going to be looking at a 3v4 retake with the entirety of Godset on the CT side, nobody on the flank. This is going to make out for a really interesting play here. You see some moving in through U-Haul, but Decay is able to shut that down. Curveball comes out, Decay finds one, Enzo with another one, and it is all down to Fractured as J0 shuts him down.
That round again, a good play by Aster to get another kill. He's consistently been getting these first kills in these rounds to stall out, as he should be doing with Brimstone. So definitely a cornerstone of the team right now. But moving forward, now that Godset has a lead with the equipment, they also need to realize their potential in flanking because, again, that Sentinel pick on Sage with Enzo is not going to provide any information to hold the flank. If Godset can realize this, they are able to push forward a little bit more, take control of the map while being on defense. But again, it comes down to the matter of the IGL making that call.
That's right, I couldn't agree more, and we are going to see GenZ coming in with that classic 5-man aggression, coming in, securing the A site rather quickly once again, moving up into U-Haul, putting down the Sage Wall. Scroll pushed up into CT, but Eden might be able to find him, but he cannot as Scroll shuts him down. We're in a 3v5 here, and the post-plant positioning is looking very strong. Fractured hoping to maybe find some value out of this Heaven Peak before he's totally given away. It looks like Low Main might be wise to it, and he's just waiting to find that timing as Obi does take down Scroll in the elbow connector there, and it's going to give him a little bit more space to move in. Obi trying to get into U-Haul, take some more map control back, does find Decay. Low Main able to trade him out, and Fracture trade out Low Main as well. In a 1v2 as J0 gets the shot kill, it is all down to Obi, but with his opponent's health low, this is doable for him.
Our part is the angles. He has to walk into a crossfire, and although J0 actually breaks said crossfire, he's going to go ahead and land the headshot that ends Obi and picks up a 3rd round for GenZ. And this is a difficult round to lose for Godset because their economy is going to go to shambles. We can see it on the scoreboard. Godset cannot buy, and it's going to be GenZ able to pick up a couple of guns and now snowball a huge advantage.
Absolutely, and we've been seeing this a lot in a lot of these matches lately, especially with this new patch. I've said it 100 times already, but the utility, guns, everything is more expensive, and that makes the economy management a lot more important, and that means that Godset's going to have to try and make this one as expensive for GenZ as possible if they want to have any shot at kind of evening out this this economy imbalance. But you see right now, the showstopper is going to be coming out for Scroll. That's going to kind of clear up some space on B for them. As he comes into elbow, he might be able to find one here. He does get kill out on Sanji, but not before Fractured trades it out. Unfortunately for Godset, that is going to open up the site for GenZ to get the spike down. But Aster might not be able to find that kill before Decay takes one out. Eden will be able to trade it. Enzo and Lomain are good for 1 each, and it's all down to Eden with a shorty, and that's just too much to ask with such a gun. Enzo takes him down, giving them 4-0 lead.
Now, Godset can take a little bit of comfort from that round because Scroll popped an 8-point ultimate on a save. They can feel a little bit better moving forward and holding their sights with the equipment. Now it's a matter of making sure none of the other utility, for example, Decay's run it back, causes any more mishaps for them. It's 4-0 in the favor of GenZ, and if they swing any more rounds, it's going to be that sort of mental distraught that I talked about earlier in our interview, Disco.
Yeah, and I would like to point out that Fractured and Aster are both 1 point off from their ultimates. That could offer some really great stopping or retake power on their part if they're able to get these picks early on. So this is going to be a very important round for them, as this is going to be their next full buy. They need to win this round if they want to stop the momentum on the side of GenZ. GenZ appears to be kind of reading this well. They're taking it slow. They're not being too reckless, and they're definitely trying to respect Godset just a little bit more, Ash.
Right here.
And that's a really smart play to make when you have a lead, is to not throw it away. That respect is going to go ahead and earn them a couple more rounds here. As we see, the run it back gets popped. Decay is deep into that site, and Aster goes down. Lomain ready to follow up, but holding the body first, making sure his buddy Decay can respawn peacefully. Eden unable to get that kill, but it's okay. It was a run it back anyways. Lomain is going to be the one to find Eden and U-Haul, and that's another drop dead pick for Godset. Sanji's going to return the favor onto Scroll, punish him for that aggressive positioning, but it's still an advantage in GenZ's favor in this post plant.
That's right, and now we're looking at a 3v3 retake. It's anybody's round at this point. We've got Decay off in the showers. Fracture trying to get that chip damage. He knows he's there. Fractured is low, so he's going to try to find some value out of this, but unfortunately he can't. As J0 takes him down, Sanji will be good for the trade. We're down to a 2v2, and the clock is ticking, but Lomain finds 2 through the smoke. 1 out, 1 in, and that's going to be round number 5 for GenZ. It's not looking good for Godset at this point.
Indeed, it isn't. That's going to bring on the mental distraught. Now, if we looked at where the bodies were positioned at the end of that map, or at the end of that round, pardon me, is that all of the angles and lines of sight were essentially between elbow pipes and showers. There were no bodies sprinkled around in short, and that's a sign of how little U-Haul control right now Godset is creating for themselves. They're really falling off or losing that area of the map quickly, enabling GenZ to make these kinds of plays and hold those kinds of post plants. So if they're able to run it back on GenZ and have a much stronger hold, perhaps with maybe a double up Crossfire or swapping over a Sentinel to that site, then they may find a little bit more success. Disco, right now, we're going on a pause, and it's actually been called by Godset.
Yeah, so it would appear that way, and I did want to point out something that you said earlier. I think was very accurate. I mean, Godset, they're gonna need to start finding some of these flanks soon because as we've seen, a lot of the post plant positioning from GenZ has put them towards the back of the site or towards more the barrier line, I suppose you could say, and that would be a good way to kind of expose some of the weaknesses in their post plant positioning as long as Godset is able to send those flanks through. But it's gonna be something that they're going to have to realize and adapt to really soon.
So it looks like we're unpausing, and hopefully that pause was actually a tactical pause for them to create some of these strategies. Perhaps they have heard us in all of our caster curse glory. I don't know. But if they're able to go ahead and follow through with that timeout, we might just find the momentum shifted. It's going to be a fast B push as Lowman rushes right into a waiting Fractured, who allows Scroll to come follow on through, but he's going to trade Lowman out and punish him for going in too early. Fractured calling out that a player is in tube. Enzo at the same time finding both Fractured and Sanji passing away. It's going to be a fight here in Hookah. Raze versus Raze. Scroll definitely on the lower end of it.
What a great tactical satchel that was, actually pushing Scroll off of that angle, allowing Eden to get that kill. Thankfully, Enzo was there to trade it out. Aster is good for one with the Judge, but with only 23 HP and shock darts, recon darts flying at him, it's going to be a very difficult one for him. He does have the Brim ult online, but it might not just be worth it at this moment. I think the best play is just going to be to try to cause as much damage as possible and get out with hopefully making this a more expensive round for GenZ. Oh, J0 is there to shut down Aster as he pushes through elbow. It's a 6-0 scoreline, folks, and we are looking at GenZ far in the lead.
Another thing that is really working against Godset right now is they are not using these ultimates. Of course, Obi is going to use that Blade Storm on the save rounds whenever he can, because that's simply just how the Jet ultimate meta has come to be. But the other four characters, the other four agents, are not seeing ult usages at all, and that's something very, very dangerous to do as a team, because you need to be maximizing your utility usage to be able to use those ultimates multiple times and a half.
Absolutely, Ash. I couldn't agree more. We do have 4 ultimates online for the side of Godset, so this could be the round. The Hunter's Fury comes out from J0, and will he find Eden? He doesn't, but he's able to find Obi and Aster. What a huge value coming out of that Hunter's Fury as Scroll comes in with the Judge, able to take out Eden as well, who is already down to 5 HP. It's 2v5, and they have a Hunter's Fury and a lockdown online for them. But again, is it worth it to make it happen? Fractured able to trade out Sanji from low main, but J0 ready for the peak to shut down that push. It's 7-0, Ash.
This is a difficult position for Godset to be in, to be sure. And it's really tough to watch them, and it's a hard pill to swallow. They are my boys, so for them to be in this position makes me a little bit sad, but it is only map 1. As they proceed further into round 8, they're not economically in a good place. They have to go ahead and save, and these 4 ultimates, again, still up Disco, and I just can only wonder when they're going to be popped.
Well, I think that now that J0's Hunter's Fury has been burned, we might be able to see the Killjoy lockdown come in. I can only suspect that maybe that was what was holding them back. Scroll coming in from showers, again getting another Judge kill, opening up the site for them. The Recon Bolt in Hookah is going to expose Fracture, but it doesn't matter because he's going to be there with the answer to Scroll anyway. Decay able to trade it out for Aster as the trades keep coming through. Sanji is good for 2. It's a 2v2, and this is looking like a really good economy round for Godset with a Judge and a Vandal equipped. They could pull this off. 2 ultimates online. The lockdown could change this round for them if they decide to pull it off. Fractured kind of pushing out towards Truck a little bit, trying to find some info, but low main is there. He says, no, Sanji, you cannot. And now it's all down to Fracture with 29 HP, and the shock dart is going to take him out.
Standing ahead.
It's been a confident set of pushes here by GenZ, and it's really reflecting on how Godset is also unable to give a site and collapse onto a post plant. But what's really surprising is these post plants going in the favor of GenZ with only one character whose identity is based around that type of dynamic, right? There's Sova. J0 not even using lineups to my knowledge, and really it's just GenZ abusing agent picks and early picks off of Godset.
I couldn't agree more. We do see GenZ kind of coming up on this B aggression. We watched them play Bind yesterday, and this is no different. They play very confidently, and they're taking as much map space as anybody is willing to give them. And because of that, they're going to be able to get out onto site. Luckily, Eden and Aster are going to be able to take them out and slow down that push a little bit. That's going to force GenZ through the teleporter and into showers. Eden is ready for them. He's waiting for them. He's got the showstopper online, and he's holding U-Haul. His scroll comes to meet him in U-Haul, but Eden shuts him down. It's looking good for Godset. It's a 2v5, and it's all down to J0 and Decay, who are trapped in showers at this point. They're going to have to make a spectacular play if they want to pull this round out. As the turret alerts everybody of their presence, it's going to be a tall ask for them, and they're just going to kind of try to play it safe and wait for somebody to peek out and maybe give them some freebies.
They are able to get that peak, as you say, Disco. The run it back is available for Decay to, snowball that kind of an advantage. And here we see a jump peak allowing Decay to gain a little bit of information, but it goes both ways. Now J0 to take a pick onto Fractured and Decay, finding those shots that he wants to. All of a sudden, we've fallen into a 2v2 situation with Decay still with the run it back in hand, and now Godset definitely is not happy with the position that they're in, and it gets even worse as a teleport is taken. GenZ free to move towards the B site, but will it be okay for them? Because Aster has the ultimate, and it's going to pop out, forcing a plant to stop, but Decay is more than ready to take Aster in revenge. It's going to be an ultimate from Sova to stop the plant, and a clutch ultimate as it is puts Godset on the board 1-8. Sanji even getting the cherry on top and finding the pick onto Decay, ending it with an agent to none.
That was absolutely wonderful, Ash. I mean, we were wondering when those ultimates were going to come online for Godset, and they couldn't have come at a better time. Honestly, using the Brim ult and the Hunter's Fury to kind of deny those plants, it is exactly what won them the round, and because of that, they still now have 2 ultimates online that they can use to maybe sway this round as well, as we see GenZ is starting to group up over towards A short, and it's looking like a 5-man push. We don't have low man on the lurk, which we've seen has huge value, so it could be an absolute A rush as Scroll jumps out with the showstopper. Decay is able to find Eden on truck, Scroll on a Fracture as well, and we have a great positioning from GenZ here as they lock down this site. They're going to give Godset a real run for their money. Luckily, we do see Sanji on the flank, so perhaps they've learned a little bit from their mistakes. Unfortunately, Scroll will take out Aster and CT, and it all come down to Sanji and Obi in this 2v5.
And Obi is holding spawn against 2 players and is able to take one, but J0 is more than ready to trade out his buddies. Sanji is here on the site, but what he doesn't know is that no one is there to stop his defuse. And so he has U-Haul control as well, and the wall works in his favor. But while he was deliberating on what he should do, Lomain, in the meantime, already teleported onto Truck and found his kill in repositioning.
Yeah, I've got to say, I mean, I was holding out a little bit there for Godset. I thought maybe the positioning would play out in their favor, but GenZ, as they have showcased, they have great map awareness, and in just about every game I've seen so far, the reads have been coming through really strong, and then it's been playing to a lot of their strengths in winning some of these very crucial rounds.
And on top of that as well, we were talking about the flanks earlier, but my issue with that flank by Sanji is that he had nobody to work with him, and by the time he even made it all the way around, the rest of his team has fallen. Godset needs to combine that flank with a site give, which they're not doing. They're really holding on for their lives, and that cannot feel good when 2 people line up to die to J0's Hunter's Fury, leaving you in a 2v4 situation. Fractured now falls to Decay, and it is Eden left all alone. He has a showstopper, but he's not going to stop anything today except for maybe Lomain's teleport. As we go into the 12th round, a 9-round gap between these 2 teams.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tall ask. I mean, even going into the second half with a 10-2 scoreline is going to be really tough for Godset, but I mean, going in with an 11-1 half, well, that's going to be even harder for him.
All right, now they have a little bit of. Oh no.
Oh,
Okay, I
the
was.
Odins have come out
Oh.
again, Ash. We saw this yesterday. The Crabwalk squad, they've already started the massive BM. But will they be able to pull the meme strat off? I think Godset might be a little bit more of a capable team than OG, so they could find a punishment for this. And I think Godset is already kind of wise to this. They know exactly what's going to happen. Sanji trying to slow it down a little bit with the shock darts. The Molly comes out from Aster as well. And Sanji will be able to find Scroll as he's coming in. Of course, GenZ is going to hightail it out of there through the teleporter. And they're going to try to go expose any weaknesses on A. But we've seen Eden, he can hold this site down. He's got his showstopper. And if they all group up and they give him enough, he could take out a lot. This could be a huge value. Unfortunately, the showstopper is not going to find anything. He's going to do a lot of damage to Enzo and a little bit here to J0, but it's not going to be enough to stop the spike plant from happening. With 3 people posted up in showers with the Odin, it's going to stop that defuse from happening maybe a little bit. No, Aster able to stick it. He's already got half Fractured and Obi with 1 each. Decay, and Aster comes through with the clutch defuse. Unbelievable, with 2 people still alive on the other team.
Switching sides.
That was a cheese strategy that there was some disrespect aspects to it. Absolutely, 300%. But Godset did not come in here to mess around. They're not going to let themselves fall to something like that. They may be down bad in the current round score, but they're not ready to give up quite yet and fall to just mischievous tactics that are essentially throwing plays. They're more than ready to handle what comes their way, and we saw that reflect in the 12th round. As we move into the 13th, though, everything resets. We're back to pistol round, and the momentum is going to be evened up. If Godset can find a pick in this round, they can set themselves up for a potential comeback for map 1. But will they do it? That's yet to be seen.
It is yet to be seen, Ash, but what we do see is that Godset is gearing up for this fast B aggression. Unfortunately, that drone is going to slow them down a little bit as it gains a little bit of information, but long control has been taken slightly by Godset, even though the Enzo wall has come through to kind of slow them down. A lot of good stopping plays from GenZ, but what they don't know is that the site is almost completely free for them at this point. Unfortunately, J0 and Decay coming through on the flank is going to kind of expose their weaknesses just a little bit. And Godset is going to try to go for the teleport rotation, but GenZ will be waiting for them in kind of a weird scattered positioning. Aster will find Scroll over in Market, and that's going to be good to kind of open them up to take this site, and man advantage going towards Godset could be the deciding factor in this round. The spike is going to go down from Sanji, and J0 is going to be kind of called out a little bit by this pen show, but not before Decay takes out Sanji and Eden. Good for the trade. It's a 2v2. Obi finds J0, and it is all down to Enzo and Obi in a 1v1, but Enzo finds 2 and clutches it out. We're looking at 11-2.
That has got to be a hard pill to swallow for Obi right there, because he had amazing positioning, and it's simply the final fight out of the range, out of the effective range for his frenzy. It's just unfortunate in that positioning, but very well played actually by J0 to find that pick and short, and on top of it, get information about our player, about Godset's player in showers. I believe it was Eden who ended up getting picked off there, creating the 1v1 scenario. Now it's a matter of Godset being able to play through the save round, and they can't make any more mistakes after it.
Ooh, yeah, and as you say that, we do see a mistake coming through on the side of GenZ as low main J0 and Scroll try to come through with that hookah aggression, and they are immediately punished for it, giving some weapons to Godset, but Enzo good for 3 with the Bucky. Eden is on the trade. Decay there for Fractured. It's a 1v1, Decay versus Eden. And it's a Judge versus a Spectre, and we'll see who can win it out. But no, it's Decay to shut it down, and he says the Judge still broken. Sorry, Riot. We're on match point.
This has got to be one of the most difficult maps Godset has ever played with my history, or during my time with them, I should say. We have never struggled this much, and that's simply it goes to show how confident GenZ is with their play, and how little they care about what another team is going to do. They are simply running it down as a unit and making room for themselves. But we see, as I say that, Eden is going to make room for himself as well. Obi taking a pick onto Decay, opening things up. Now all of a sudden it's a 2-agent advantage. But Godset now needs to take a page out of GenZ's book and stick together. If Obi gets picked off here, it'll all be for naught. Because Enzo's sitting around with the shotgun, and we've seen him do damage with it. He got 3k in the previous round, and now that his position is exposed, it is less likely for him to get set picks.
One enemy remaining.
And luckily is put down by Fractured, so it is an open sight. And it may be a round 3 for Godset as Obi finds his third kick onto J0. And now they can take a little bit of breathing room here. Although, unfortunately, they are my boys and I love them. Not as much as an impressive round as it was GenZ's save.
I absolutely agree. I mean, we did see GenZ was kind of, I guess you could say they were a little bit on a half buy. As we could see, they're coming through a little bit more of a meme buy again. Obviously, they're feeling very comfortable and confident in their play. Enzo stage up, 3 Odins coming through, and Scroll on a classic. No, sorry, Scroll also getting the Odin. So obviously, they still feel very comfortable in winning this round. That being said, the read, it might not be as valuable as they thought it was, as they had 4 stacked over on A, and now 3 are rotating over towards B as they start to get a whiff of what Godset is doing, trying to take this map control. That being said, we've seen Godset run these teleporter strats plenty of times, and as I say that, Obi lurking up through showers, getting as much map control as possible. He could meet Decay here at any second over at U-Haul. Decay maybe gets a little bit of an idea of what's going on as he's starting to move his crosshair back and forth between showers and short. Obi, though, playing it patiently. J0 and Low Main kind of on their way back towards A, maybe reading this wrong as Sanji finds one over on B. That's going to leave the site mostly open for them. Are they going to take the bait? Kind of an odd round, Ash.
It's a whole lot of rotation by GenZ, but they're just moving whatever. They're doing whatever they decide to do, and now we're actually going to see a Godset rotation as well, as Obi has cleared the site on his own, taking control. But I don't know if this is the right move, because he's going to get picked off by J0, and Enzo will get the opportunity to revive Scroll. And although they have sight, they're not pushing quite in. They're not pushing into it quite yet. Godset giving up way too much space, and they need to plant immediately. Sanji is able to find another pick, being good for 2, but it's not enough to save his team, as 2 more fall in the favor of GenZ. And now it's a 1v3 situation. Fractured unable to do anything about it since there's not enough time to plant the bomb.
Yeah, that was a very unfortunate circumstance. I think Godset had a lot of win conditions throughout that round, but unfortunately they took their time a little too much on that last round and ended up losing out to the timeout. But ladies and gentlemen, we are giving map 1 to GenZ in a 13-3 fashion. We're going to send it over to a break while we prepare for map 2. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are jumping right into map 2, which is Ascent. And after a brutal first map, Ash, I gotta say, I am excited to see what Godset pulls out. Hopefully, they can show us a little bit more competition this time around and put GenZ in a place where maybe they're kind of a little worried themselves.
That is, something I'm hoping for as well, Disco. It was a tough loss for Godset going out and coming back in to talk to the boys. They're definitely feeling it, but they're gonna feel it in a different way. They're confident. They want to put GenZ to sleep. They want to move to round 3. They're not gonna let it slide, taking a loss that they just took. They're more than willing to fight back, and I hope we do see that reflect in their play. And as we see, as we talk about play, we're going to actually see Godset picking up the traditional Sova Killjoy duo. But on the other side, J0 with his signature Sova will not be getting that same Sentinel pick. Again, it's actually going to be a Sage pick. But what interests me actually is that Decay is the player there on that Sentinel, which is not something I was expecting since I believe he was playing Phoenix before. And so it's certainly a change of play style, but I'm more than happy to see players who can flex roles in this game.
Yeah, I will say we watched GenZ play on Ascent in the last series, and Decay was finding a lot of value out of his Sage plays. The walls were good for stopping some of the pushes. We did see a couple cheesy walls coming through, but the players to look out for, folks, are going to be Low Main and Scroll. We've seen them on Ascent, and they have huge impact rounds on these. I'm going to be watching Low Main on some of these lurks, and hopefully Godset is going to be able to kind of sniff some of these out, especially now that they have the Killjoy. It should be able to shut them down, as well as Sanji on Sova, kind of giving them as much information as they need. And as we start off the round, we do see Godset coming into mid. Almost a 5-manning. Enzo and Low Main are able to find 2 picks right off the start. Obi is going to be good for the trade onto Enzo. We're looking at 3v4 right now as Godset holds this mid control pretty comfortably, but the shock dart's going to come through from J0 and find Fractured. Obi will find 2 on the push in. Low Main will switch him out, and we are already down to a 1v1. Low Main versus Sanji, and Sanji is low. Going to be a lot to ask of him, but what he doesn't know is that Low Main is kind of falling back. He's given him this. He's given Sanji the space that he needs to grab the spike here, but it is all about to go down right here. Low Main kind of not sure what's going on. Maybe he didn't know that the spike was down there. He's feeling a little bit confused. Just a slight footstep is going to give him away, and if, as we say that, maybe we hear something that kind of psychs Low Main out, and he's looking towards B. He's thinking that B is going to be the hit here. Meanwhile, Sanji already making his way towards the A site. And it looks like he's going to be able to get the site for free.
Left.
Spike will most likely go down. And we're going to be looking at a 1v1 retake here, Ash.
And finally, in this 1v1, Low Main hears the door close and is opting to move towards Catwalk, where said door has been closed. And this is going to be a difficult position for Sanji to play, because although he has his arrow, he has to give away his own position to make it useful. And as that arrow bounces, Low Main will most likely hear that it's come from hell, but he's giving up information of his own as he's stomping around. Sanji seen, jumped, right-clicked, and it is the round for GenZ. A valiant attempt by Sanji to hold, but the capabilities of the Classic are simply unparalleled.
You know, Ash, I gotta say, that was just unfortunate circumstance. I think if Sanji had had maybe a little bit more health there, he might have been able to pull that round out. But that being said, we didn't see GenZ completely roll over them. So we could be looking at a little bit more of a competitive map too. Of course, GenZ did take the first round, but that doesn't mean that it's over for Godset yet. Being that they got 4 kills, it's going to put their economy in a little bit of a better place. It's going to allow them to do a full buy next round. And of course, we see GenZ coming through with the anti-eco. Low Main opting to stick to the frenzy.
We'll see if that works out for Low Main, because that will turn him into a weak link. Although it may work out well for him, as there are no players looking to actively contest his angle, and he's also holding with the one-way.
Yep, and as we see Scroll and Decay coming through on this mid aggression as well as Enzo, they're going to be able to find 3, and hopefully Godset can kind of shut this down and make it not a flawless loss. Luckily, Fracture able to find 1, but J0 has the answer for the remaining 2, and they're going to go in with 4 Spectres. Sorry, make that 3 Spectres on the bonus on the way through. That's going to put them in a good spot. Luckily, Godset is going to be able to come through with the full buy.
And now this is where Godset really needs to dig deep. They need to go ahead and bring out their best play because they lost the bonus round to GenZ on map 1. If they lose it again on map 2, it's not going to be great for them, and it's going to be another swing. They need to really settle down here and play smart.
Right, and as we see Godset coming in on this aggression here on A, and it's an absolute bloodbath as Fractured finds 2 and Astra with 1. That's going to put GenZ in kind of a tough situation. It's a 2v5. The side is free. Decay is waiting for them in tree to see if he can find a pick, which he does, but not before Eden trades him out. J0 does find 2, but Astra is there with the answer, and he shuts him down. They're going to get the spike plant down, and we're looking at 2-1 with a little 300 credit bonus.
That's a decent round by Godset, but getting 3 picks on your bonus round reflects well onto GenZ because now it's going to put Godset's buy on the back burner. We see it reflect in Eden's lack of heavy shields and lack of utility around the rest of Godset's support agents. So that's going to hit him hard when it comes to the post plant.
Luckily for them, it looks like they're going to be doing a little bit okay here in terms of their money-wise, bringing it into the next round. GenZ is on a full buy, and we might have a little bit of a face-off here in a main as Decay takes out Obi as the first blood of the round. Eden trying to get the pick, but GenZ is playing it smart. They back off. They're not going to give them that free trade. Meanwhile, Fractured trying to find some value over in this mid lurk, and the rotation has started to come through from GenZ over to A. That being said, we do see a little bit of a split lurk here. I don't think Godset has quite decided that they're going to take A just yet. Hopefully looking for a little bit more value out of some of these lurks, trying to find a pick to open up some map space for them, but I don't think GenZ is going to give them too much.
Especially so when they have information that Godset is pushing up catwalk. Fracture just about to make contact with Scroll and loses the aim battle. Scroll more than happy to heal up as well. Take a second pick off of Aster and retreat back into the site. And now it is a lone Eden with his buddy Sanji to make magic happen. And although a dink goes out, it's not quite enough to stop anybody. A secondary dink in retaliation, Reyna versus Reyna, and Scroll proves his dominance.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate the way we see that happen. I mean, I don't think Godset could have done a whole lot better. I think they had the right play, but GenZ very well disciplined, making sure not to give up too much for free, and that is part of their constant and consistent win conditioning, is that they know exactly when to go in, they know when to take those picks, and they know when to get out. And that's been what's been kind of swaying all these rounds towards them in all these series that we've watched so far. That being said, we do see Godset kind of moving up towards mid. They just want to try to get this mid control. They are on a bad buy, so grouping up is going to be the move here. Unfortunately, the guiding light will come out from Enzo. It will allow him to get 1 kill, but not before Eden gets a trade. J0 good for another one, taking out Sanji, and it is looking devastating for them down here in mid. Luckily, Eden is able to pick up a gun, and he gets the trade out on low main. We're looking at a 2v3, and this is doable for Godset as Asher finds 1 classic kill onto Decay. It's all down to Eden, and now he's in a 1v1. It is Reyna versus Sova. The Leer comes out, and he could find this, but no, he's going to just opt to drop the spike and try to play this safe. Playing it smart, not getting too aggressive, trying to respect J0 as much as possible, but Eden finds it to get a 4K to close out the round. It's a thrifty round, Ash.
Now that is what I love to see out of my boys. 3-2, they're closing that round gap, and they're not going to let GenZ take the lead as much as they did in the last map. The issue for them here is that my boys need to keep on their toes with the 4 ultimates available to GenZ. Hunter's Fury and Seekers in particular are going to be lethal, especially with GenZ's signature playstyle of pushing out every possible angle.
Yeah, let's not forget, though, that Aster does have the ultimate on the line, and that could either help them open up space to take a site, or it could shut down one of these aggressive pushes. Decay coming in with the early wall, trying to find that pick, which he does onto Obi. He's looking down at a 4v5, and the lockdown comes in from Fractured, and that's going to hopefully push some people off the site as a little bit more utility starts pouring out. The drone will come out from Market, and a blind chip damage right through the smoke is going to put Fractured in kind of a tough position, and he can't find Scroll as he comes out, guns ablazing, able to find him. He's looking to get another one, which he does onto Eden. Enzo good for another one, and that's going to shut down the round in just, I mean, so fast that if you blink, you might have missed it. GenZ taking round number 6.
Flawless. For you.
As we move into round 7, it's a tough play for Godset because only one ult was expended, and that was by Scroll with the Empress. Meanwhile, Fracture's lockdown went to use, but no return on it, and that's really tough when you're using a Sentinel on the attack side. What I want to see Godset do is also be able to rotate around a little bit more as they commit to these sites that GenZ is more than willing to come up on very aggressively through their own spawn, but not on the flank. We're actually kind of seeing a reflection of the previous game, although it's still working in GenZ's favor.
That's right, and we do see Decay just coming through with the wall to just kind of shut down as much of that B control as possible. Eden will be able to find Scroll on Cat, Fractured as well, low main. J0 will be able to trade him out, but it's looking kind of good for Godset as long as they can play this well. But the J0 Hunter's Fury is going to come out as Enzo finds one, because if Hunter's Fury find any value, it does not, but Eden will as he takes out Enzo. He's going to get another one. Senji's not good for the kill on the J0. It's a 2v2. It's up to Obi and Eden, and if anybody can pull it off, I think it's these two. They have the spike. Obi on a great lurk here. This is some of the rotation that we've been looking for. Is he going to find one? He is good for one. He takes out J0, leaves Decay all alone, but he will be able to get the res onto Enzo. That's going to give them a guiding light, at least one, and possibly the Tasmanian Wolf to try and get as much information as possible as Enzo burns his last flash to try and get some more info on this A main. Eden ready to take this fight, but the Wolf is going to come out and find as much value as possible as Eden does get the kill. We're in a 1v1. Health favoring Obi, but no, Decay comes out and he is good for the kill. We're going to take round 5, Ash.
That was a very close round, and definitely one of the closer ones we've seen in this series, Disco. It's a little bit unfortunate to see Obi's lurk not really give the advantage that he wanted, because that resurrection came into play. Now, I do have to say, it was great positioning by Eden to try and get the pick onto Enzo, but what he needs a little bit more of an active help by Obi, who needs to get onto that side faster, realizing that when he gets that pick mid, they're not going to come his direction. They're going to go the longest route away from him possible.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we saw how that played out, and it didn't really work out for them, though it was a close one for them. And now we are looking at Godset. They're just going to try to make something happen over here on B. We are in an eco round for them, 5 sheriffs. Scroll will be able to find Fractured from Cat, and they are already going to push in and try and just close them in, box them up, and just take out as many as possible as low main gets 2, score with 1, and it's all down to Eden with the sheriff. Can he make something happen here? He is able to get 1. Can he get 2? But no! The jumping around is going to make it difficult for him to land that as Enzo closes it out. It's a 6-2 score line, and it is not looking too good for Godset.
It's a tough map, and it's really difficult for Godset to find a chink in the armor, especially that they aren't, I feel, using that Sova utility to its fullest potential. They're not stalling out any of these pushes by GenZ, and they're not holding their flank as strongly as they could.
And, you know, as you say that, we start to see Godset trying to spreading out a little bit, looking like they might take their first default round, and this could potentially pay off for them if they're able to punish this GenZ aggression. Unfortunately, the secrets come out from Enzo, and it is going to get some value, but not before Obi takes him out. Low main will be good for a trade, and Decay grabbing another one on Eden. Low main good for 2, good for 3, and Scroll cleans up the round, taking out Aster in a near flawless fashion. And we're looking at potentially a 9-3 scoreline here going into the next half if Godset doesn't start pulling out some serious changes in play. They
do need to pull off some serious changes indeed. I could not agree more. And so we need to see if it's going to happen that they finally realize that what they're lacking is not aim, what they're lacking is not coordination, what they're lacking is using the utility that they have to its fullest extent. 3 ultimates on the board. We see the Blade Storm come out by Obi, as expected, as he did not go for a buy. He's got the heavy shields in his back pocket, but it's Aster's ultimate as well as Sanji's Hunter's Fury that still haven't seen the light of day. And speaking of Aster, he's going to find a pick onto Scroll, while Enzo is going to take retaliation onto Obi. Aster good for 2 with a pick onto Low Main.
Ooh,
and J0.
Fortunately, J0 not able to find that up pick as Sanji is going to take him out. It's going to open up the A site for them, Ash, which is going to be exactly what they need. The heal coming through for Enzo. It's a 2v4, and it is all up to Enzo and Decay. The real question is, can they pull it off?
Player standing.
It's starting to look like they can. Disco is a 1v4 situation. Decay is the last one left alive, and it seems like Godset has a decent amount of utility to stall them out. Sage does have a heal available, but what good is a heal when you're getting sprayed down by 4 players? And we even have positioning advantage in Fractured, who's sitting on Cat. He's going to know exactly what's going on when it's going on, but he doesn't even need to do anything as Eden takes the final kill of that round, putting Godset into a 3rd victory and perhaps able to start a 5-7 half if they can just get through this 11th round.
I gotta say, Ash, it was beautiful utility usage on the side of Godset during that post-plant site hold. We saw the mollies coming out to kind of delay the push, the smokes as well. This is the kind of utility usage that we're going to be looking for from Godset if they want to have any shot of pulling this back in their favor. Now we do see Eden and Obi kind of gearing up to take this early cat space and try and shut down any of these early aggressive plays. This is a beautiful 2 and 3 crossfire they have holding the mid control. And as Aster just kind of holds that flank, making sure that they punish every single thing that comes out as Fractured gets Decay up on his wall. And that's going to be a huge pick for them in. No more Sage, no slow orbs to slow them down. That being said, the J0's drone's going to come out. He's going to get a little bit of information, but not too much. Scroll is going to try to peek out with the Odin, but Eden tells him to sit down. No Odin plays today. This is our map. And because of that, we're going to be looking at a 3v5 as Godset slowly creeps their way up towards the A site. J0 and Enzo kind of playing mid, getting ready to make this rotate happen, which is going to come through right now. But Godset is running out of time if they want to have any shot at making this happen. They're going to need to push in. Lowmain is ready here, and he's going to find Aster. Can he get one more? No, Fractured shuts him down. J0 is good for 1 with the Odin. Eden comes through with the trade. Enzo with a counter trade, but it doesn't matter because Fractured is there, and he shuts down Enzo with a 3K to win the 4th round.
Last round in the half.
And that's what I love to see. All of a sudden, it seems that Godset has changed face and more than willing to move together as a unit where they weren't doing so before. We saw them navigate that mid as 4, I believe 3, with 2 going towards a main. And so that really opened things up for them. They are more than able now to kind of read GenZ, but it is the last round. GenZ have also shown that they are more than ready to switch up the standard.
Yep, and we do have a little bit of a weird buy coming through for GenZ. 2 Guardians and an Odin. I think the opportunities for Godset to take this round, give them their 5th round, is definitely in their favor. Now we see the lockdown from Fractured coming in to try and push everybody off of that A site. They're playing it smart, but is this a fake play? Because we do have Aster and Obi lurking over towards B as 3 group up on the side of GenZ into A heaven. Unfortunately, they may have taken too much of their time, and because of that, GenZ has started to get a little bit of a sieve of what's going on here. I think they might be ready for them to take this push. Godset's going to have a lot to do here. Aster getting ready to drop these smokes as they come in. The recon dart will come out from J0. And we're going to have to see Godset make a really fast play here. Ooh, J0 takes a lot of chip damage to the smoke there. That's going to be huge as they take the site almost potentially uncontested. Enzo is back there taking out Aster, but Sanji takes out Lowmain. Enzo is still standing. It's not looking too good for Godset at this point. They need to start taking more map control, Ash, but unfortunately, The time is running out. Eden will find one. J0 good to trade it out. Eden with a second, and it's all down to Enzo. They could pull this off, but unfortunately with Fracture down to 3 HP and 18 seconds left on the clock, they're gonna have to move to take the site. And they don't have a whole lot of utility left to work with, but Eden's good for it with the 3K. We're going into the second half with a 7-5 scoreline.
Switching sides.
Now that's the way. As predicted, as it occurs, Godset back up 5-7, but they're still at a deficit. The only thing is when you're 5-7, if you're able to win the pistol round, more than likely you pick up the round after that and even up the score. And that's exactly what Godset wants to do right now. That's what they're aiming for. But of course the opposite is true. When you're Gen Z, if you're able to pick up this round, you're going to create a 4-round gap after 2 round wins to make it 9-5. This is a very critical point in our game because this half, although everything is reset, it essentially decides which team is going to take a lead.
That's right, and the lead is what Godset is going to be looking for. Like you said, this pistol round has never been more important. Unfortunately, Sanji is going to take some early damage and get hurt, but it doesn't matter because Obi and Eden are there to shut down that push. They get those 2 picks right off the bat. Obi's good for a second one, and Obi's good for a third. Give him the ace. Lo Mein is able to trade out for Eden, but Obi gonna try to play this a little bit smart. He's not gonna go too aggressive. Lo Mein down to low HP. I mean, it is a 1v4, and we have seen Lo Mein pull out some pretty crazy clutches before, but with 14 HP and a classic, I mean, what more can he do in this situation? We've got Aster and Sanji on the flank, all the information they need to know that he is just virtually trapped here. There's nothing he can do, Ash.
Yeah, and especially so when Sanji has that recon bolt ready. I mean, if we're going to see if he uses it or not. He's right now just sitting in that corner. But oh, Lo Mein having a very aesthetic time over here, watching that smoke drop. I mean, hey, nothing better than seeing what Godset is going to do. Now, what I don't like is how they're waiting oh so patiently. Something needs to happen here.
Yeah, Lo Mein just kind of vibing here. I think he knows that his days are numbered. So he's just going to probably just try to wait this time out and see if he can maybe get a single pick. It looks like Sanji and Aster are getting a little bit impatient, but luckily Lo Mein has his back turned to him, and that's going to make for an easy kill for Aster. We're looking at a 7-6 and potentially a 7-7 scoreline going into the next round.
Need equipment.
And indeed, a great round it was for the side of Godset because Obi in particular having a good round to pick up 3 kills and really fragging as he should be with Jet, but on the defense, to make that clear, not essentially the time you want to see your duelist fragging out, but you're going to take what you can get, and when you're Godset, you need every possible round.
Yep, and that being said, I do appreciate that they didn't get too reckless with it. They knew what they had, and they didn't decide to throw away that lead. But now we see Sanji coming out with the Ares. He finds 2, and that's going to be huge for them. Getting Decay and J0 out, that's going to be a lot of their shutdown power and their info completely gone now. Of course, Sanji will fall, but it doesn't matter because the man advantage is in favor of Godset. And now Gen Z kind of slowing down a little bit, Eden finding one more lurk out over on Tree or Cat, I believe, and now it is all down to Scroll and Enzo. Scroll does have Sanji's Ares, Enzo with the Sheriff, but Godset is going to be waiting there for them. Look at this utility that they have over on B, just waiting for them to walk in. We have an alarm bot and we have the Nano Swarm that could do a lot of slowing down. You can see Godset's not giving them anything to work with. They're just waiting for the push. They're not getting too aggressive, and that's what you want to see from this team right now because this round is so important for them to take with as many guns over into the next round as possible.
Oh, we see a pick come out from Obi actually to call the presence of Scroll, and it's going to work exactly in Eden's favor. It's a final player left in Enzo on the sky, but how much utility does he have? Not much. Only the heal, which nobody around to use on, and he gets spotted by Eden, is about to get turned on by Obi as well, but it's going to be the Reyna securing the kill as a crossfire happens, and now we've made it 7-7.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This game is not over yet. Godset will not go quietly into the night. And we're looking at a really strong economy going in. A bonus round, but Obi opting for the third round op. Now, I'm really interested to see what he pulls out. I would like to point out for just a moment, if we can look at the scoreboard, Eden 21-10 right now, really just showing Gen Z that this is not going to be the same as last map.
No, it will not. And speaking of something that isn't the same, it's Obi on this operator, because on Ascent, he's kind of cracked with it. I'm hoping to see some plays to reflect it. Sanji backing up and giving Obi the information that he needs to hold that angle. But a wolf is going to come through. Has it spotted him? We don't know. And that's going to be information that Gen Z, it is critical for them. And it actually seems that they may have spotted Obi as we see movement towards the B and the push orient that way. But again, we have Aster and Fractured with all the utility in the world to stall.
Fracture is going to be able to find one with the Nanoswarm and a second with the Spectre, and that's going to leave Asher in a really good position here, being able to delay it a little bit more with the Molly. And now we're down in a 3v5, and it seems Godset has caught wise to exactly what is happening here, although the rotations have not come through in a reckless way. We can see Sanji over there getting ready to meet with Lo Mein, but Lo Mein gets the pick, and unfortunately that's going to open up the A site for them, but he's all alone and he doesn't have the spike. The real question is, will he be able to do some damage here? Obi, look at that amazing flick, finds the pick on Lo Mein with the op, and now it's a 2v4, J0 and Enzo all alone. The spike will come down, and that's going to give him a little bit of a credit boost as well as an ultimate orb. But the real question is, in this 2v4, will Gen Z be able to pull it off? Eden playing it safe, making sure to clear out this angle, not so recklessly, and we've got 3 grouping up into heaven, while Fractured coming around on the flank to apply a little bit of pressure, but it doesn't matter because Enzo is taking him out. Of course, Obi has made it onto the site. Eden finds 1, J0 with 2. It's a 1v1, and J0 finds 3 and takes them out. Oh no.
It was definitely a close round, but it's also something that we have to look at in terms of the now, right? As we go to the scoreboard, we're going to see the loss of agents for Gen Z reflecting their economy. Not a whole lot of heavy shields to go around. And now here, it's going to give Godset an edge.
It's really interesting that you point that out, Ash, because I think what we see here based on the economy is that this is going to be the deciding round for both teams. Whichever team takes this round is going to start taking a little bit more momentum from the other team. So it's really important that Godset takes this round if they want to win this, and vice versa, Gen Z, if they want to close this out in a 2-0 fashion. As I say that, we see Gen Z taking a whole lot of space up in mid, practically uncontested. They're pouring in through market. Enzo with 1, Scroll with another, but Obi all alone back here with the Ares. He's going to be able to find 1 on the Scroll. Can he find a second one? No, Decay shuts him down. J0 and Decay on the site. It's a 4v2. It's all up to Sanji and Eden. We'll see if they can pull it out.
Spike planted.
The drone coming out from Sanji, just trying to find a little bit of information so that they don't go in too crazy. Unfortunately, Decay is able to find that 1 pick on to Eden. It's all down to Sanji in a 1v4. He's got to make something happen, or he's got to save, which might just be the move here. Maybe try to get some exits on the way out, but he can't do it as Decay puts him to bed with a 3K to end the round. We're looking at a 9-7 scoreline.
And now it is Godset with the economic disadvantage. They move forward. They do have 2 ultimates, and Obi is going to pop off with the Blade Storm. But will he go ahead and make magic happen? We need to see, and we need to wait to be able to tell what exactly he plans to do in this kind of a situation. When you're on the defense, right, we know that Eden right now is the cornerstone of Godset when we're looking at the scoreboard, but the other secondary duelist now needs to come up and reflect that same energy. That is to say, of course, or not to forget, Aster and Sanji needing to come up and take those fights where they must. And speaking of fights, we're about to see one break out in B main.
Oh, and the slow orb play on the stairs is going to put Aster in a really tough position as Decay comes through and takes him out. Unfortunately, they had the stack over on A, and that left B relatively free for them. And now they've just kind of spread out, and they've taken so much map control. It's going to be very hard for Godset to try to retake some of this. Sanji over in CT with the Deagle. Lo Mein able to take out Eden in B main, but does he know that there's another one? He doesn't, as Fractured is able to trade out Lo Mein, but too bad because Scroll is there to take him out as well. Decay good for the last one. It's 10-7, but Godset does have a buy round coming up next. It's not over yet.
They are going to be able to move in with an Empress on Eden, and that's going to go ahead and be fine for them because we know Eden has been performing in terms of the frags. The issue is GenZ gets to pick and choose their fights, and they especially get to pick and choose when it comes to having ultimates. All 5 on the board for them, from the Shadows, Resurrections, Hunter's Fury, their own Empress, as well as the Seekers, is going to go ahead and sit Godset down, perhaps for this round and maybe the next few, unless this Operator...
Yeah, and with these ultimates online, we might be looking at a really fast site execute, the same execute as before, but this time, Aster shuts it down. The Omen from the Shadows is not going to find any more value. Aster's good for a second one onto Enzo. GenZ maybe having to rethink things a little bit. The drone comes out. Fractured's good to kill Decay, and Fractured good for a second one as well. Aster and Fractured finding all the value in this, and it is all down to J0 in a 1v5, and I think Godset might just be taking this round. We have to see here, J0 just kind of playing it safe, maybe waiting for Godset to make a mistake, but Godset being smart, and Eden finally gets that angle to take out J0. It's 10-8, and Godset might just be making a statement for this map too.
They're definitely climbing their way back up, and they're not showing the weakness that they did in map 1. I have to agree with you there. But it's still too shallow. They're 2 rounds behind. They can claw their way up to make it even, as we saw earlier. But can they take the lead? Because I believe when they do, it'll be the first time they do it.
Yes, and as we look at the economy here, as we can see that if Godset wins this round, it's most likely going to give them a free eco round afterwards to try and tie up the scoreline. So again, another really important round coming in for Godset. And if they don't win this round, it's not going to be looking too good for them. Thankfully, looks like they have a good spread around. Low main trying to TP in and closing the door. That's going to give away his position a little bit, as well as the turret. It's going to give him some sight. But Fractured, smart, knows that he wants to try and delay any possible push coming in. But what they don't know is that this could be a fake. But it doesn't matter because Obi and Eden are going to shut down any push over on the A site. Eden with 3. Low main's all alone. And Fractured doesn't care because he's going to shut down low main. It's 10-9, and we could be looking at a tied up scoreline.
And this is going great for Godset because now these ults that GenZ is using are being dismissed one after another. 2 rounds ago, it was Scroll's Empress. This last round, it was low mains from the Shadows and Enzo Seekers. And this time around, it may just be Decay's Resurrection and J0's Hunter's Fury. And once those are all off the table, it should be a clear shot at victory for Godset because they are approaching their ultimates at this point in the game.
Yep, and we're seeing Obi trying to take some early info from Cat, but unfortunately the smoke will block his line of sight. At the same time, we see Enzo's Wolf coming in, getting a little bit of information. GenZ trying to take some of this early mid control, but Obi shutting down low main on the lurk is going to kind of make them a reset a little bit. That being said, we do see J0 and Scroll kind of moving up on Cat with these sheriffs. The real question is, are they going to be able to find any value out of this? Because if they do, it could swing this round. You put a rifle in the hands of Scroll, and it could change everything. But Sanji is going to be there to try and find him. Scroll does find that pick, and that's going to give him a rifle. And unfortunately, oh, it doesn't matter because Eden is able to find the trade there. J0 is going to go ahead and get the spike down, at least to try and secure some money for them. We're looking at a 3v4, 2 rifles in the hands of Decay and Enzo, and a sheriff in the hands of J0. They're just going to play this off-site a little bit. They're going to boost Enzo and Decay up on this wall to try and find a good angle over the smoke. Thankfully, Obi will be able to spot them out, and he's going to force them off of that position. This will allow Aster to try and get at least a half on this defuse. He could stick it. Is he going to... Oh, no. Unfortunately, he was too low. He couldn't make it happen, but Eden and Obi are good for these kills. And Eden is going to be able to stick this out, and he's going to get it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a tied scoreline. This could be it.
That was a huge retake by the side of Godset, but I have to admit that positioning by GenZ was very, very sneaky to go ahead and use that wall over the smoke and actually abuse the angle that Aster creates against his own team. Again, that can only be done with the Sage pick, so now I can kind of see why Decay is opting for that agent rather than the other 2 Sentinels. more than excited if he can do any more of that. But of course, I can't root against my own boys. We're going into a tied score, as you said, Ninja. But what's interesting is now we're seeing GenZ actually split up the map, whereas before they were merely 5-stacking. I think they're actually playing with a little bit of respect now here on the attack.
Yep, and this is another pivotal round for Godset. We do see Scroll getting his pick on Obi. That's going to shut down the operator. Fracture good for the trade, and J0 to send it back. The man advantage has gone in favor of GenZ, but it's not over quite yet, even though we do see Decay coming in with Enzo and trying to shut down this A. The site is theirs, and the spike could come down potentially, but J0 a little bit late. The slow orb on Heaven will deny some of that push, and Aster, I think, just playing off to the side here, waiting to hear the spike plant go down so he can get his ult off and try and delay as much as possible. Sanji kind of holding this. No, the spike will go down for free. Of Guiding Light coming in to give GenZ a little bit of information. And you gotta wonder what Godset's play is at this point. Sanji does get that pick over on Enzo. J0 coming in with the recon dart. Low main though, this is a huge flank for him. He could find a lot of value out of this. They don't know he's there. He's gonna get 2 in the collat. It's a 1v3 and it's all up to Fractured. And all of the delay has come through. There's nothing he can do. Ash Decay is going to come through and take him out. It's 11-10, but thankfully Godset is in a position to buy this round.
That is a little bit of a comfort for them, but it gets tenser and tenser as we move round to round, because if they go into overtime, both of these teams will start to feel fatigue. The most important ult here for GenZ is still up, and that is Decay's Resurrection, which I was going to mention in that last round was still completely usable, but they didn't even need it. Godset not opting to use Aster's Brimstone Ultimate, which is something that even I have to question. So we're going to have to see if it gets an effective usage sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, we know that sometimes these ults can come through in a very good way, as we've seen last map, but it is going to come down to this round. This might be one of the most important rounds we've seen in this map. Godset is going to need to take this, and while I say that, GenZ has put a lot of utility and presence up towards mid, possibly trying to force out a rotate. Eden's going to be alone here. He's going to be able to get one miss out, but not before he gets blinded, and he can't get a second one before Scroll takes him out. Decay coming through with the res. The Aster ult coming in to try and maybe deny that res, but it's not going to find any value, unfortunately. Fractured is going to be holding the Heaven, but the Seekers are already coming out to give them as much information as they could possibly need. It's a 4v5 in favor of GenZ, but that doesn't mean that it's over yet. J0 is coming down with the spike plant. Low main again. The lurk. God, he's going to be good for 1. Can he get 3? No, he can't. Fracture is going to be able to shut him down. Unfortunately, Decay with the backup lurk is going to find the other 2. We're on match point.
This is a tough space to be in if you're Godset, because not only are you on match point, you're going to be on a difficult buy. And this is what I mean when Godset is not really worried working the flank. They're allowing these players on GenZ to even come into their own.
Yep, and everything comes down to this round. We've got kind of a shattered buy coming through on the side of Godset. Enzo deciding to go with the up. That's kind of an interesting pick. We'll have to see if Obi's Judge finds some good value here. We do see the Wolf coming in from Enzo, clearing out as much as possible on the A side, but we could see that Fractured has decided to move his kit over to A, and that might just make GenZ second guess this A push a little bit, trying to kind of just stay away from those alarm bots, those turrets, because they do have a lot of stopping power. And as I say that, we see the rotation coming through from GenZ. They are lining up for what appears to be a pretty hard A hit. The recon dart comes through. That's going to telegraph exactly what's going on. Astra's going to put down the molly, try to slow things down. Obi's good for 1 with the Judge, but he can't get a second one. Doesn't matter because Astra is there. Low mains from the shadows, puts him in the back of sight, and gives him that advantage to take down Astra. It's up to J0, Enzo, and Low main to make this happen, but it is a 3v3. This could go any way. Sanji able to get that pick on Low main. That's going to be huge. That's going to give them the man advantage. Fractured and Eden lining up to come out of CT, but Enzo is waiting here with the up. Will he get 1? He does. He's able to get Fractured, and unfortunately the Leer didn't come out fast enough from Eden, and it is down to Sanji and Eden in a 2v2, but Enzo is able to find Sanji. They keep challenging this up, and it doesn't matter because Enzo's just going to be a menace in this B main. The recon dart's going to expose him. J0 will get him through the wall. That's going to be GG, folks. Map 2 going to Gen Z. They will progress into the finals.
Ladies and gentlemen, an amazing best of 3 series brought to you by Godset's Trial of Diligence. Team Godset versus Gen Z. Gen Z coming out on top with a 2-0 map win. The first one, very tough, I believe 13-3, and the second one, 13-10. We see a little bit of fight come out from Godset in the second map, but unfortunately not enough to follow through on a second map victory. We have to give MVP for both teams. Eden carrying the entirety of Godset on his back with all of those picks that he's been making. But for the side of Gen Z, it's a little bit of a tougher choice. I want to say that Enzo's participation with his ultimate provided a lot, but Lomade's from the shadows created multiple picks on the B side that we can't forget, and in particular, his lurks on the post plants A also stopped Godset in their tracks. So between those two support characters, those two players, they are tied for the MVP for Gen Z. Folks, I have been Ashcon, joined by Disco Ninja. Disco, do you have any last words for anybody?
I just want to say I appreciate Team Godset so much for giving me the opportunity to be here. That's going to be it from me today. But folks, don't go anywhere because the next match is going to be insane. We've got Converse Esports, who is an absolute juggernaut, plowing their way through this bracket, and they're going to meet the immovable object that is Gen Z. So stick around after the break, folks. It's going to be a bloodbath. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.